next up, we have Paul Papadimitriou, who is going to be waiting, I think, in the green room. I'm sure we're going to see him just a second. There he is. I'm sure he partied hard last night, but looking fresh and well. We saw Paul yesterday with his colleague Alex, who have been really integral to the Start with Innovation finals right through the whole process. And Paul today is going to talk about the next generation of customer, look at e-commerce, its expectations, and how it affects business. And as I mentioned yesterday, Paul has lived in all sorts of countries around the world, including cities like Tokyo, Geneva, Manila, Limassol, and is currently residing in London. He certainly has his finger on the global pulse, and he's an expert on the emerging identities revolution and its transformative effect on businesses. He's also a big authority on how new technologies are disrupting the economics of marketplaces and business models. So please give a very warm welcome back to Innovation Stage, Paul Papadimitriou. Welcome back, my friend.
Hello, Nadine.
Nice to see you again.
So am I a big expert? I don't know. I'm tall expert, that's for sure. Oh, and of course it doesn't work. Emerging generations. What I strongly believe in is that, we've been talking about technology these past 2 days. We've been talking about mobile technologies. We've been talking about all these stuff that impact businesses. But what is most important for me is the actual impact it has, not the technology, but the actual impact it has on our society. So there's an emerging generation coming up. If you look at here, you know these terms, right? Baby boomers, the guys who were basically born between 1950 and after. And then either Gen X, Gen Y, now Gen Z, because the guy who invented Gen X didn't think that we're going to run out of letters here, so we don't know exactly what we're going to call them anymore. But basically, what's most important is that this generation here, starting basically those who were born after the 90s, their generation, and that was hinted in some of the talks before, this is a generation that is born with the internet. It's a given. They don't know anything else. It's a given. There's some differences in some markets, emerging markets, as Nadine just mentioned. I've lived in emerging markets as well, but trust me, it's also happening there. But the most important thing is that today, by 2015, this generation will be a third of the global workforce. So these are the people that will manage the companies and your customers and the providers and the partners you work with. And if you look further ahead, by 2035, look at here. It will be all of these guys will have, the only thing they will have known, as I just said, is the internet. And that other generation, the even younger generation here, is a generation that will have only known mobile technologies and mobile internet. So imagine the shift that it can have both in societies and on your businesses. So we have an emerging generation, and I just hinted at it. Now we have emerging technologies. Obviously, the most striking one, and this is something that's been repeated over and over and over, is obviously mobile technologies. This is just quickly timeline. This is the logarithmic scale. As you can see, this was the PC era, the web, the desktop web era, and we're entering the mobile era. There will be more than 10 billion devices that are using mobile web technologies. 10 billion devices. And if you look at the numbers, there's already almost 7 billion smartphones, mobile phones, 2 billion smartphones, but most importantly, there will be 1 billion people getting a smartphone, and that will be the first device that access the internet they will ever have. They don't have ever tried a computer. In the next 2 years, there will be 1 billion people accessing the internet via a mobile device, and they never had any other tool. Imagine how different the internet, how different the approach to business it is for them, how they learn about the world, where they have this power in this pocket. This is what matters. They have a computer in a pocket. The phone I have in my pocket right now is actually more powerful than a computer I had 3 years ago. It goes extremely, extremely fast. That empowers a lot of people. 75% of those literate, so those who actually know how to write and read, will have a smartphone by 2017. 75% of the world population. they will have a smartphone. Imagine the force, Chris Henderson just hinted at it, the liberation of the forces that this creates. So, what is, I just put this picture here because this is a washing machine. Who has a washing machine at home, right? Yeah, everybody, right? But if you had asked the same question back in 1950, that wouldn't have been the case. So when I ask you now, do you know what is this? Do you know? Yeah, who knows what is this? Okay, so you're old people like me, because we know, right? So, and all this history of technology is basically a history of convenience. We don't have to wash our clothes, our dishes ourselves anymore. We can record television, we can control what we are seeing, we can learn about information, and now we have that power in our pocket. And this is just that, more and more convenience. The internet is a tool for more convenience, and it's going faster. And if you just map out the generations, basically we're defined by the technologies that were born with us. So this new generation that's born right here, your kids, their defining moment is this. It's a mobile phone. And maybe we call it mobile phone because for us it's a mobile phone because we're, again, old people. But for them it's just, it's a computer, it's a device. We still call it phone. I maybe do one phone call a month with it. The rest is just being on the internet. This is why I just wanted to show that people they call it digital natives. So people that supposedly were born with the internet. I even say for me that the most important part is not the digital natives, it's here. The guys who were born only with mobile phones. These guys are the always-on generation. But let's move. So, a new generation, new technologies, and this is important, creates new behaviors. Of course, if you have kids, this is what you see. They chat all the time, right? They keep being on their chatting phones. They never use email. They abhor email, but they use the phone. But what is actually most important is not the fact that they chat, is they're creating tribes. They define themselves by group culture. We were defined by the country we were born in, by our family values, sometimes then later on in life by the company we were working at. This generation is defined by the groups they create, the people they interact with, no matter where they live. This is why they create new selves, new personalities. This is, there's always used this story of this kid who was bullied in school 30 years ago because he was not like the others. That the same kid now, with that tool in his pocket, can actually say, you know what, there's another kid like me who likes the same stuff as me. He might live in a different city, he might live in a different country, but he validates who I am. He allows this person to be liberated, to be empowered to be who he is, or who she is. So this is extremely powerful in society. Then, of course, I put here the screens because everybody likes to talk about screens. First screen, second screen. I don't believe it. For me, there's only one screen. I don't care which screen you're talking about. The kids do not care about which screen they're talking about, where they think they want a singular experience. Again, they have a unique identity that blends work and private life together. There's no first or second screen for that generation. That doesn't exist. What exists, though, is that they are very nomadic, if that slide will like to go up. We were defined, again, by the country we were born in. These people do not have the same types of boundaries. They don't see the barriers and the frontiers that you were used to see. Again, they're talking to people all around the world. They travel. For them, traveling is an experience. It's not like a discovery. It's part of their DNA. And this is why, as businesses, for us, going to work was the power to get money to then have hobbies on the side. It was part of it. For that new generation, these two are blending. They need to have a sense of purpose when they go to work. And they don't care if the work is have to sit in an office or not. This doesn't matter to them. So you have a new generation, new technologies, that creates behaviors. And of course, what that does, it actually merges values. I've hinted at some values. I'm just going to show you one word cloud that was made by Deloitte 2 years ago. They asked people, 2 generations, what is the purpose of business? I guess you can understand which one is which, right? Profit. That's the baby boomers and the later generation. And then in blue, like you can see the bigger word, societal development, innovation. It doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean that they don't care about money, because I hear that a lot. Look, there's wealth, there's profit. They still do care about having a good life, but they need a purpose of why they have a good life. I get that's the purpose of business. The question is, why do you work in a business? Profit, societal development. But there's different values. By the way, it's always been the case. You can look at the ancient Greeks. They were always like, Aristotle would say, oh, the young do not understand us, and the young would say, oh, but the old are old farts. So this is not something new. This is something that always happened. It's just that the technology, by going faster, this convenience going accelerating, it creates this divide that we feel sometimes, whether it's with your kids or with colleagues that you work with. So when you actually have all this, what does it do? Basically, people want simple, social, and sustainable. Whether you talk about products, whether you talk about experiences, whether you talk about life, it has to be simple, social, sustainable. Simple technologies is just works. Social behaviors, they define themselves in tribes, and sustainable, the values are sustainable. And all this, what is a generation that is seamless, a seamless generation. No defining which screen is what, which device is what, it's all a seamless experience. And if the slide would like to go, never mind. That for me creates a new identity, an emerging identity, an identity that's seamless, social, simple, and sustainable. When I say that is, I use, as Nadine just introduced me, I used to live in many countries. I now live in the UK. 10 years ago, when I was traveling, there were massive differences. These differences are still there. But when I look at now, with these kind of technologies we have, and especially the mobile technologies, I see people behaving more and more the same, more and more alike. And that includes emerging countries. That includes countries in Southeast Asia, Latin America, or Africa. There's this trend of behaviors becoming more and more the same. People all use their mobile to do stuff, to have a convenience, to have an easier life. Seamless, simple, social, sustainable. This is the 4 keywords you have to remember for every product, every business proposal. Seamless, simple, social, sustainable. Sorry. Actually, when you think about this, as I said, it's a global experience. I mentioned many times these emerging markets. I strongly believe in the emerging markets advantage. Emerging markets never had, and you can be called, in Eastern Europe, some of you guys, an emerging market. You never had any other choice but to work with limited resources. You don't have as much money as some other countries, or maybe the government doesn't work as well as some other countries. You have limited resources, but you still had to deliver a good product. But this is the story of every good product that is actually released now, even in the Western world. That's the emerging market advantage, the creed. You have to believe, you have to work with very limited resources to deliver a product that is, I repeat, seamless, simple, social, sustainable. This is something that emerging markets have always done. And this is why they're very good at it. This is exactly the same kind of values that now companies in the West, if we can call it, are replicating. All the startups you keep hearing about, they're doing products that are seamless, simple, social, sustainable, something very simple. We heard that yesterday with the 2 startups that went on stage, and that you will see in a few minutes again. And I don't think you can read it, but basically, products that come out from emerging markets have to be robust. There's no other way. You know, when you have limited resources, but you have also customers that have less amount of money to actually buy your products, they want a product that is solid, robust, that will actually outlive, that will live, that will endure. It has to be low-end, simple, robust. Unlike the products that the West, you say, you know, big TVs and big cars, and it has to be robust. And you know what? If you think about seamless, simple, social, sustainable, the marketplace is shifting toward that direction too. We're seeing the sharing economy. Chris and John mentioned the sharing economy. If you go to the US, you have a car. The car, who has a car here? I have one, to be honest. I'm an older generation. The car, there are statistics that you use your car 8% of the time. The 92 other %, it sits on the road, in front of your office, in front of your home. So what happens more and more, you buy a car and you say, because now you have marketplaces that allow you to do that, you say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to rent my car to whoever wants. So I can actually say, oh, I don't have a car, I just need a car for 2 hours. Instead of going to the major corporations to do that, Avis, Hertz, I'm going to rent it from you. And then you can rent it to many other people. But what does that mean? This is not, it's good for you because you make some money, but it means that the car makers suddenly are selling less cars because I don't need a car because I can get yours when I need it. But it also means that you, when you choose your car, you want your car to be robust because you know that many people will buy it, and because you want to have a long life with it, so you want to be able to repeatedly share it and repeatedly have an additional income. So not only the car makers will have to know that they will have to make less cars, but the type of cars that they will have to do will have to be also cater to that audience. And this applies to every type of business, because people are not, in this new generation, is not defined by things anymore. They do not define by things. We were defined by having a car, having a big house, having a big TV. The newer generation is interested in experiences. And when they have these type of marketplaces, they don't need the car. And they might not need a big house either. You know, Airbnb, other systems to actually have experiences, live around the world for 1 month at a time. Again, you have a house, you can rent it, you don't need to use it all the time. Same, so this is extremely disruptive. And of course, again, all that is accessed through your phone. Both you that want to actually rent your car, and both the person that actually wants to use the car. So this is one of the major impact for me in the next 20 years. And the fact that all these comes together, seamless, simple, social, sustainable, a seamless generation, simple technologies, social behaviors, and sustainable values. When all these comes together, what you have an empowered experience, and you have an empowered generation. And you truly have to understand that your customers, because this is what you're interested in, your customers will be so different. They will want a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning. And the kind of products they will buy will be different, and the kind of products you will have to give them will have to be robust, simple, the 4 S's, but also with a sense of meaning. And on that, thank you. Now, what I want to do, I will invite Lawrence. You've seen him on stage yesterday. He was one of the 2 startups. Because he actually, I believe that he made a product that is actually seamless, simple, social, and sustainable. So, Lawrence, please come on stage. Jingle. Oh, here you are. How are you since yesterday?
Good, thanks.
Good. So, we were talking about what I liked about your product, because I remember you, for those who are not here, you will be able to pitch later, but he makes a product that allows people to transfer money easily via a smartphone. But what I really liked about your story is that the inception of the idea was you trying to basically send money to your mother in Nigeria. And you might have not heard because you were backstage, but I really insisted on the emerging markets here. How do you see mobile technologies impacting emerging markets? Do you see your mother being empowered because she has access to a mobile phone?
Sure. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I think one of the key things for me is, even though I live in the West, I live in London, is I'm African, and everything is African first. If I think about the example of Africa, in particular Nigeria, just over a decade ago, there was 100,000 landlines, which meant that if you wanted to do business, literally you had to walk many miles to go and find the person, do some kind of arrangement so that they can come back and you want to get your car fixed or something wrong with your house or whatever. And that was incredibly inefficient, time consuming. With mobile devices, what has happened is the economy has changed. There's an economic statistic that says the impact of mobile phone has grown African GDP by more than 7%, right? Wow. And if you take the case of Nigeria, where they've gone from 100,000 landlines and 10,000 mobile phones to over 120 million mobile phone subscribers. That is huge, right? So things that would have ordinarily taken 1 day, 2 days, and now take half an hour, 1 hour. So as a small business owner, you now have the ability to be able to speak with people, make multiple appointments in order for you to be able to get goods and services delivered in a timely fashion, and then you make more money, right? So that to me is the number one impact. But there are many, many impacts in Africa specifically. You can see in mobile banking, so if you look at the case of M-Pesa in Kenya, where I think it's less than 20% of the economy is banked, whereas 75% of the population use M-Pesa, which is a peer-to-peer.
Yeah, basically M-Pesa, you can basically send money peer-to-peer via just a mobile phone.
Correct, right. And then you look at...
No smartphone, just simply a mobile phone.
Exactly, it's done by SMS, right?
Yes.
And then you can also look away from mobile banking, you can look at the impact in social activation, right? So, many people have talked about things like the Arab Spring, where, you have real time on the ground, people live on Twitter, live on Facebook, live on YouTube. You're seeing this from Tahrir Square all the way down to, Lagos, Johannesburg, and the impact, the more mobile phone penetrates, the impact is going to be incredibly huge, not just on governance, political systems, voting, all of these things are being captured by mobile devices. And I think that I'm going to touch on a couple more things, but the one for me that actually is the most impactful and actually moves me is actually mobile health, right? So everybody knows that Africa used to have a huge health problem, especially relating to HIV.
Yes.
And now you have systems in place that allows you, once you've been diagnosed by your doctor, you don't have to go from the village to the town every week. You now have a mobile phone that tells you when you should take your medication, when you should take your blood samples. And so when you take all that information back to the city or the nearest village, the doctor can act on that in a really impactful way. So these are the things that I see mobile having such a huge and transformative effect on as it relates to emerging markets.
But do you see that same transformative effect in London?
So,
because we not all live in emerging markets, and for me there's a similar, basically this idea of being empowered as a population also happens probably in the West. Also, like you are a startup, this is exactly what you do basically.
Absolutely. So the example I think James gave yesterday is the one that really resonates with me, which is all about showrooming, right? So the idea that you go to a shop and you basically try things on and then you go back to your house and you actually buy it. I actually listened to somebody a few months ago that was talking about how mobile is having an impact on retail, but actually he flipped it on his head and he said, actually, when you look at things like Apple, right, they welcome showrooming. Right? For them, I think that the gentleman coined it going to worship at the Apple Cathedral, because people go in there, they make the space wide open, it's light. Hey, come and play around with all these amazing devices and everything.
They trust their products so much and say, just play with them, do whatever you want.
It's so open, the people are so friendly, they want to help you. You can stay there, even if you don't want to buy anything, you can play around, surf the internet, check emails and everything.
Facebook.
But that converts you,
Yes.
And people, everybody, if you ask them what they want an Apple device, right? And so the idea that this whole showrooming, I think that the businesses that don't embrace this and are very closed are going to suffer, right? The idea that I can go to a shop, I can take a picture of a barcode, and it can tell me the nearest place where I can get that very same product cheaper. A lot of companies are afraid of that, because they haven't been open, they haven't been transparent, and now they're being found out.
To be also honest, some of them might not know the technology that exists to actually also compare themselves to, because they are price comparison. They were one of the startups that didn't go through the last stage as you, that was doing such a product where you can actually, companies can also monitor the competition products. So it creates a new whole set of skills that also business owners, like you said, in Africa, but also in the West, have to learn in order to respond to these trends, right?
Right, absolutely. Particularly in the startup world, we're seeing For the last four months, I've been deeply immersed in everything startup in London, and you can see how businesses are being transformed, and everybody is thinking about their business mobile first, right? And we see that. And actually, the other really interesting thing for me is we spend some time meeting with larger corporations, and what they're doing is they're trying to feed off innovation in order to understand what they should be doing for their customer, and that's also a very interesting dynamic that they tend to waste a lot of time, but that's an interesting dynamic.
So let's move on maybe to money, because talked about value and money. In God we trust. Money is trust, basically, right?
Correct.
Money is already virtual, always has been in a way, because money is basically the trust you put in, the trust you put in the government behind it. And money also evokes a lot of feelings. There's the dreams. There can be dreams, hopes, fear, greed, oppression. There's a lot of stuff that goes with money. And you actually decided to work with money.
Sure.
So you're going to help people to transfer money, but of course trust is the key element here.
Yes.
How can you win trust? Sorry to go a little bit further. If you look at all the industries, many of them has been disrupted already, from books, a lot of content. Fintech, so finance, hasn't been really disrupted. It's heavily regulated,
Right.
heavily controlled.
Right.
Which is understandable because
Right.
people do not want to lose their money to crooks, and government wants to also have an oversight on taxes. So how do you see disruption and innovation going into that sector, and maybe where do you place yourself with Money, the name of his company?
So I think that we're still at a very early stage. I look at the work that people like PayPal have done over what I call Web 1.0 or what have you, and how they've empowered merchants on the internet. On the desktop internet, I see something similar happening on mobile, right? It's very interesting that PayPal also recognized that through their acquisition of Braintree and Venmo, and they're thinking that actually we want people to be able to buy things on mobile, but not necessarily through PayPal, because that wasn't a brand that resonated with developers,
yes.
right? And so they're looking at, well, how can we tap into this developer community? And that inspired some of the acquisition. I think that almost half of the transactions that were happening on Braintree that PayPal paid $800 million for a few weeks ago was happening on mobile. So to your question, mobile is driving a lot, but to the first part of the question, which is how do you elicit trust, it's really difficult, right? So we move slowly, we move cautiously, we're regulated. But I think the really important thing is to give people an amazing experience so that they can recommend that. If people don't have an amazing experience, they will not recommend you. And we found that the most powerful thing is word of mouth, right? So if people have a great experience, they'll recommend you to their friend, and no amount of Facebook ads or Google ads is going to drive people to use your product if it's crap.
You mentioned, and I guess maybe none of the guys here were there. Can you mention again the numbers, the staggering numbers of remittances? So basically, people sending money. So the example you took was Poland, which is the first market you're planning to launch in, because as you know, there's a lot of people from Poland living in the UK, especially London, and they send money back to Poland. So can you maybe go a little bit into these numbers?
According to the World Bank, there's more than 200 million immigrants who send over 500 billion home every year. And this specific segment is called remittance. So it's about foreign workers who leave their country of origin to go to another land for better opportunities so they can send money back home, for the explicit reason of sending money back home, right? So this is a very discrete segment of the market that we think is ripe for disruption.
So now a little bit of the dark side. Not that there's always a dark side, but of course when you think about, you read a lot of stories about cybercrime and people getting hacked or phished. And when it comes with money, obviously that's even worse, because you're like, I don't want to have my account or my money being transferred in place. So how do you see, and in general, maybe for you money, but in general, how do you see your technology responding to that? Because you can build trust in terms of word of mouth. But how can you, that part of the trust that is unseen unless it actually happens to you, how can you actually ensure that this works?
So we have the same challenges that all the banks have. You'll note that banks, credit cards, big companies have all been hacked. And when investors and VCs say, what keeps you up at night, that's what keeps you up at night. No matter how much you think your systems are secure, and we pay hackers to hack in to our systems, to find loopholes and all of these things, there's always going to be some guy who's really smart who's going to find something. So we're very vigilant about that. That is, if you can't respond to that, you're dead, right? I mean, if you think about it, if you're a photo sharing app, you make a mistake, your data gets leaked, you issue an apology, everybody forgets about it. If you're in fintech, financial transactions, money, if you make a mistake, you're dead. So you don't get an opportunity for a second time.
But in terms of also, so the brand value, so it means gaining trust,
Sure.
brand matters.
Sure.
One of the things that you can see, that's actually my take, we can see in this history of transactions and billing systems, even PayPal and even the rest, is that they've all built up from a preceding layers. So credit cards were built up on money,
Yes.
and then PayPal is built on credit cards. Basically, you go on PayPal and you trust PayPal because also you trust the fact that you can put your Visa card.
Right.
So there's always a chain
Absolutely.
model, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And one of the things that we've tried to do is to try to keep it as simple as possible in the first iteration, where you're paying with a debit card. In order for you to be able to remit at the other end to a bank account or to a mobile wallet, either a telco, so Orange mobile wallet or O2 mobile wallet or an MTN mobile wallet or a Gcash mobile wallet, right? So we try to keep it really simple, and because there is a layer of people who still do cash to cash and will always do cash to cash, but we try to address the audience that we can, and over time we will come down and try to address the audience that we're not looking at.
But so more generally, do you think at some point, because when we talk mobile money, for the moment you store basically money that is tied with either your bank account or your debit credit card. Do you think it will, I don't want to go to Bitcoin because we have a similar view on that it's great, it's a great experiment, but there's many things that might not work with it. But do you see actual mobile money that is completely separated from, I'm not saying from cash, but from either banks or credit card companies? Do you see something like that emerging or not at some point?
So Bitcoins is the answer to your question. Do we think that Bitcoins in the long term is a sustainable play? As a regulated entity, it's really difficult for us to be connected physically to the Bitcoin exchange. Otherwise, if we lose our license, I end up in jail, right?
Yes.
So, and it's not something that I want to do. So we are continuing to build our tech stack on existing infrastructure, whether it's banks or telcos that are providing distribution points.
Do you work with telcos, you just said? You work with telcos as well, or?
We work with telcos.
So because that's the thing, telcos, I mean, this is again something you see more in emerging markets than you see in non-emerging markets, is that you can actually exchange money, like we say, we talked about M-Pesa. You can actually exchange money directly with your phone. I was living in the Philippines, and I was actually paying my cleaning lady with SMS, right? This is how I was paying her. And then the operator becomes, this is what is interesting, is you can see operators or carriers, as we say in the US, being more and more banks, and then you see banks having to be more and more technologists. Is that something you agree with?
So I think that in the developed world, so in Western Europe and the US, I think that the operators missed a trick. And they're always scrambling. So if you look at what happened in mobile advertising, for example, that should have been an operator play. They have so much data on you, but they missed the opportunity. As it relates to banks, how many people here use a telco mobile wallet?
Anyone has a mobile wallet here? 1, 2, I see.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think that in developing countries where there's no alternative, you have to use a mobile.
Yeah.
And the telcos have so much power, right? They control so much. I mean, I think M-Pesa, something like 30% of Kenya's GDP moves through a telco, right? So that gives you a lot of power.
And maybe I'm going to finish this. I will expand a little bit because this is an e-commerce conference as well. So how do you see, because part of obviously e-commerce is mobile payment, so money as a play in that, but how do you see, you mentioned window shopping, or was it mobile?
Showrooming.
Thank you. So how do you see more generally, how do you see mobile affecting e-commerce? I know it's a very generic and large question.
Sure. So I think that as more and more content moves to mobile, and more people purchase on mobile, the ability to be able to do transaction in a smooth and efficient way, hence the Braintree Venmo acquisition, that to me is the high impact, low hanging fruit that you're going to see very, very quickly, right? So one click checkout. You saw Amazon just announced that they're doing pay with Amazon. The ability to be able to have pay with, and everything is stored in the back end, so your credit card details, your mobile wallet details, it means that you don't have to fish around and add those details. Will accelerate e-commerce and will accelerate that on mobile devices.
Okay, and I think on that, unless anyone has a question in the room, Nadine tells me no. So nobody has a question because she actually decided. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Lawrence, thank you very much. Take your seat for the time being. I think you'll be coming up quite soon. And there's a gift for Lawrence for appearing on stage. Thank you very much. And very exciting. Thank you very much for that presentation. And I thought that was fascinating, that chat. It gave us a real insight into what African continent and the importance of telcos.
Yes,
and
massive one.
That convergence that we saw yesterday with retail banking and telcos is happening in Africa. And,
exactly.
take
it's already
note.
happening, yes.
And I'm going to get a payment wallet, I think, on my phone. So I think that's something I'm going to do when I go home. So I can, next time I can put my hand up. Yeah, that's on my to-do list. Now, we want to invite Alex back on stage.
Yes.
So this is going to be for the announcement of who's won the Start with e-nnovation final.
Yes.
So let's welcome Alex back on stage. Come on, Alex, where are you?
Alex!
Hello, people!
Hey! He's got the hat on. So guys, I'm going to leave you in your capable hands to bring back the two competitors back on stage.
That's right.
So we're going to see whether it's Alfresco Live or Money.
Exactly.
So
Thank you
over
very
to you,
much,
Alex.
Nadine. So, how are you guys? Let's try again.
Did you actually vote? I hope you did vote.
How is the hangover going? Better? Okay. So, I hope everyone voted. So now we're going to have the final startup decision. So I'm going to invite our two teams. So Lawrence, please from Mint, from Money, Mint.
Yeah, you can come back in. Yeah.
Please come on stage. Big round of applause to Lawrence, please.
Again.
And where are my friends? There they are. Come on.
Play Fresco.
Come on stage.
Come on.
Come on. Energy here. We need energy. Hello, guys. So I have a, let me switch this on. So, you're being unmiked. So, question for you guys. Who do you think is going to win?
I really love what these guys are doing. I think it's really amazing.
Okay, so if you win, you're going to give them the money?
No.
Okay, so who do you think is going to win?
I don't know, really.
Come on, say something.
I hope we will.
Okay, there you go. Do you agree with him?
Yes, but I think that we all win because we are here. So
there you go, a politically correct answer. Okay, guys. So on that screen, we're gonna.
This one or this one? I don't know.
That one.
That
so
one.
You come here with me. So we're gonna pop the results.
We don't know it, so we'll learn at the same time.
Yeah.
Actually.
So we're gonna put the stats there. So to the count of 3, we can start like clapping if you want to get ready. Come on, some clapping. Some clapping. There you go. We can hit it whenever you are ready. Come on. Don't let me down.
Sid's here.
Oh, over there.
Nice.
There we go. That was a close call, guys. Woo!
Well, that was very close.
That was very close.
Very close. I can take care of that.
Okay, Lawrence, all yours.
Lawrence, few words.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, okay, come on.
Oh,
You're on the
he
stage.
was enough on
Come
stage.
on. Do you want to hear
on,
him
big
say
round of
something
applause.
else? Come on, something else. Say something else. They voted for you.
Thank you for voting for Money. We're humbled and really delighted to be collecting this award. More than the money itself is the opportunity to be here and connect with fellow like-minded technologists, digitalists. This is my first time in Poland. I'm going to come back for sure because you guys treat me really well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And of course, guys, come here.
Come here.
So that was a very close call. So how do you feel about that?
First of all, I've been with Lawrence for like 2 days, and he's really a good friend of mine now. So congrats, and you really deserve it. Congrats.
Okay, so are you gonna invest in his company now? Ah, you're good friends now. So
Yeah.
so guys, close call, but congratulations, both of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all of you for the voting.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you to Play Fresco, who've been brilliant competitors. Thank you also, well done to Lawrence and Money. And also, can we, guys, stay here before Alex and Paul? Please give them a big round of applause. These guys have worked really hard over the last few days. No, I haven't finished with you yet. Alex, I haven't finished with you yet. I want them to still look at you as I'm talking about you. They've been mentoring not just these two finalists, who will agree with me, but all the other finalists as well. They've given a lot of their time up to really help them with their presentations and to fine-tune what we saw on stage here. It's a really tough job, and the credit goes to you two and the team of other people that helped you as well. Well done, Paul. Well done, Alex. We really appreciate your
Thank you.
stars once more. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.